Hello and welcome to Political Horizons. This is a new channel where I would like to talk about mainly political events, world events, currencies, stock market, and mainly on things that I find where the news and don't really are not really doing their job in covering in an objective manner the topic. And that's where, without further ado, I would like to start. The problem I have is a lot of news channels are trying to be impartial, but their job is not to be impartial. Their job is to be objective. And you don't necessarily have to be like on one extreme or the end of the political, but you have to at least try to be objective, and there is a truth to everything. And that's where I'm going with our first topic of this channel, which is how and why are the news so respectful towards dictators? Um, they call them strong men, or usually they get called president, but really, in all honesty, they should be called dictators. And we're going to start with the number one dictator that I follow, which is Erdogan, who's been prime minister and now president of Turkey. And he's been pretty much for almost 20 years, since 2003, in complete control of the country. And you should see him popping, well, here, his face. He has been definitely a controversial figure because he has been amassing more and more power, controlling, destroying the independence of the central bank to begin with. He has completely and utterly destroyed the Turkish tradition, which was established by the first president of Turkey, Kemal Atatürk, which he deserves a video on his own, but we'll explore that later. But Turkey had a long tradition of being a much more secular state, following a little bit like French. You could say a little bit. I think Kemal was following a little bit, or trying to follow the French example of the Republic. But in either case, you can see that Erdogan has been trying to push more fundamentalist Islam. And well, now he's creating a currency and which has he created a currency crisis, and it's now spewing into a economic crisis. And the problem he has is that, and this is where the news get me upset, is that they say he has an unorthodox economics views, instead of just saying Erdogan is just batshit crazy, which he is batshit crazy. I mean, I hate to say it, but he is batshit crazy. I mean, all economists who are respectable, from the right or the left, you can go all the way to Mr. Mayor Keynes, excuse the horrible pronunciation, to, to Milton Friedman, and they all agree that increasing the interest rates in your central bank, which are the rates that banks get charged for lend, which is the basis that the banks use for lending money and borrowing money. Increasing the interest rates lowers inflation. And why? Because if you increase interest rates, you encourage people to save. And it's very simple. It becomes more expensive to borrow, so you're not going to go and buy a new PlayStation 3 that you don't have the money for, or I guess we're on PlayStation 4 or 5, I don't know. But either way, you're not going to buy a new expensive item that you have to borrow money from because the interest rates are above your capability of payments. But it is very encouraging to save. So it's a double-edged sword. It does cut inflation, but it also, of course, also cuts growth. The problem we're having now is because of the COVID, you're having the whole world and most emerging currencies and even the dollar now are being concerned about inflation. And in most central banks are talking about raising interest rates. The Central Bank of Hungary just did it. And the point you're having now is that Erdogan, or Mr. Crazy, whatever you want to call him, he decided, no, that's not true. All those Nobel Prize economists are wrong, and I know more than they do. If you lower interest rates, it's gonna lower inflation, because in his view, interest rates cause inflation. And what he has created is a problem where the lira, the Turkish lira, which is the currency of Turkey, has lost almost half of its value in a year, and it loses value pretty much daily. And then now, inflation just for the month of November, it's estimated at 21%, and those are the official figures, which, being that he's become pretty much a dictator in all but name, and everyone in the media refuses to call him what he is, it's probably doctor numbers. It's probably much higher. Independent research groups call inflation in Turkey probably closer to 58%, and you may see some numbers coming up here. But in either case, he, instead of increasing the interest rate to help fight the currency flight, because now everyone is trying to buy dollars and euros or whatever they can get their hands of to not lose the value of their currency. Even Apple stores are said to not, and this is a rumor, I cannot corroborate it, but they're said to stop selling their items or trying to stock them because the price of the item is going to be so much higher the next day. I don't know if that's true, but it is true that when inflation is rampant like it is now in Turkey, you are much less likely to sell an item because the money you're going to be getting for the item is going to be worthless, or is going to be worth a lot less the next day and the next day and the next day. But anyway, he has to talk about crazy things, just like most dictators. Mr. Erdogan has been focusing on mega projects. Some of them are okay, like the new Bosphorus bridge. That was, you could say, maybe needed. But like the Istanbul airport, which I'll probably make a video if you guys like the idea, let me know in the comments below. Or the Istanbul Island, which has been covered, which is making a second Bosphorus canal. But as I was saying, he has been trying to create a second Bosphorus canal because he feels that, like the Bosphorus Strait, it will be the Bosphorus canal to compete with the Bosphorus Strait that Turkey already controls. And it's one of those crazy projects. I'm probably gonna, if you guys, there's a lot of videos already on YouTube, so you can research it, but it would have enormous negative consequences on top of the gigantic cost. And it's not even needed. And Turkey has an enormous economic crisis, so you would imagine it shouldn't necessarily be a priority, but it already started, so we'll see how far it goes. But what is for sure is that 60%, over 60% now of all deposits in Turkey are now in Turkish banks, are now in foreign currency. And that is going to keep accelerating because who's going to want to keep the Turkish lira? It's becoming worthless. And of course, he knows more than everyone else, Mr. Erdogan. I mean, he's fired 3 central bank governors in 2 years, and what else better than, also a finance minister just recently resigned, but what else better than putting family and friends and people, your son's buddies and stuff like that, they know obviously more than people who are economists and people who've worked in banking and people who've worked in central bankers who spent all their lives working with currencies. Anyway, But we'll see how the whole thing ends. I just feel like it's really interesting how the media, and I'm not a skeptic, but I don't want to sound like I don't trust the media or anything like that, not at all. But I do feel the media sometimes is too polite and it's not objective and it tries to be impartial when it shouldn't. Like cases like this, Mr. Erdogan is not doing unorthodox economic policies. He's just doing batshit crazy economic policy. Anyway, if you like this video, I hope you subscribe. I apologize for the quality of the content. Hopefully, if you like it, I'll be making more content. Have a good day. Goodbye.